I've got a little light up above my head on the right. I just turned it on. I'm not sure it's made much difference. Watch. Tiny bit. It's a tiny bit. Change the colour temperature as well after a bit. So. But yeah, at least there's light outside today. Sometimes it's so dark and dingy in here. It's a good job I'm working in black and white because at the colour situation. Although you end up, the sort of Rembrandt drawn by candlelight kind of feeling about painted by candlelight thing. You get a certain classical feel about it, wouldn't you? Because you only see colours in a certain way. Yeah, that was yesterday's, and I did a madcap thing last night before I left. Was that Ewan McGregor thing? And I haven't done anything with it. I just thought it looks enough like him. That'll do. But that was on this paper again, and funnily enough, this paper. It's the last piece I've got now. It's the kind of subtleties of tones that you can see. I think all of that's down to the paper, but I'm back on the old scrappy stuff that I don't know where it came from. To be honest with you, I hate it's got a ribbed surface. You often see paper like that. People that I'm looking over here to see if there's any more decent stuff. This is interesting. This might be all right. What's this stuff? Let's have a go on this one. This might be all right. I haven't got any ribs on it, so I have no idea about. Don't ask me as I said, people ask me about paper. I have no idea. I have this thing where I walk into whenever we go anywhere, walk into a store, and if it's a kind of store that would sell paper or A3 drawing pads, sketch pads, I buy one, and that's it. And then it just accumulates, and I end up with piles of stuff that I've no idea where it came from. There's another one there. There's something being ripped out of a pad. So, but I have no idea where it comes from, and I kind of it's potluck as to how it's going to work. But that's half the fun. Half the fun trying to figure out if it's suitable or not. And many times it's not. So this has got a nasty crease on it. So that piece hasn't underneath, but that's got a nasty line on it there. So what do I settle for? The line, the crease. I think that'll be fine. That'll be fine. I'm going to draw this woman who's got I don't know what look that is. She's not happy, that's for sure. So I'm going to draw her an unhappy young woman. So learning. This is the thing about them. I don't know. It just sort of. Somebody just said about I learned so much from you, and I think I don't really set out with any kind of decision that's what I'm going to do. I share what I experience, I suppose, and how it's affected me. I think back in the day, I was thinking about if I learned to do this. I think back in the day, yes, I did. Not to do this, but to draw and paint and all that required of me. I'm pretty sure, because you just don't know when you're a kid. You don't know. I mean, I'm saying I was a kid. I was early 20s. I was a kid. By these standards, I'd be an adult. Today's standard, adult, grown-up adult. But because there's remarkably childish adults these days, well into the 40s. But back then, I would have considered myself an adult, I suppose, at 20. But no, looking at it now, I was a kid. But I think I would have learned or tried to learn how to do things. Not very good at, and I had the same thing with programming. Not very good at following the rules. The lazy and impatient thing has dominated my life, if you like. I always want to get it done now. But I was consoled by the fact that I think there is a I've seen it somewhere where there's definition of creativity are people that basically, or creative people are people that basically do it and we'll figure it out as I go along. That's kind of me, you know. I've always been a bit like that. We'll work it out, we'll deal with it, we'll, you know, and respond to what we're trying to achieve. And I say, I think that sort of sums up me. So learning wise, no, I don't think that I learnt in the traditional sense, just simply because of that, I say. But it suits this, you know, it suits being creative, it suits creating full stop. The willingness to try other things, to explore, to, you know, I think that's creativity. It has to be an exploration of something. It has to be an investigation and an adventure. I think that's probably what it is. It has to be those things for me, and I suppose I embrace that. That's basically what it is, and not worry too much about conforming with, you know, outcomes and doing things in certain ways and all that kind of stuff. I'm not. It's a bit contradictory because it's portraits, you know, and there is a requirement in there, obviously, and what I'm saying is that I try not to follow that requirement or meet that requirement. Again, as I say, it's a kind of a contradiction of what this is about. So I'm not sure how I can resolve that. And it's just as soon as it's not fun, you know. So if it means laboriously copying something and laboriously learning something, then it's not fun for me, and I'm not going to do it. I've lived too long doing things like that, you know, doing things I didn't want to do. That it's not going to happen when I'm old. So, and that's what there's a Chinese saying that's you know, painting is for old men, and I can understand why. You know, pastime for old men, and I couldn't understand why they'd say that, because it is, you know, you become very ambivalent. I suppose that's a great word. You know, I thought about what word would I include today. Ambivalent. That always reminds me of these crazy football commentators, pundits on the telly, and they used to have this thing where they try and pick a word that they were trying to include in their punditry. And I'm not saying that ambivalent was a word, that's just a word, but it's not a word you hear that often. Certainly I don't, anyway. But yeah, it just suits me to be like that with this, and the, you know, the accepting of it being a more of an exploration, more of a unknown destination thing. I think that's probably why it works for me, because it sort of keeps you on your toes when you're not, you know, what's happening. It's not quite working right here, there, and everywhere, and you're aware of it. And I think that's probably one of the most important things about art or creativity or portraits or whatever, is that you're present in the moment when you're doing it. A lot of people just zone out, and their presence is almost, someone said to me the other week about this outer soul or upper soul or oversoul or something. I can't remember what she said, and that's, to a lot of people, that's what it is. It's a almost like an out of body thing. And I said that about doing this. Sometimes it feels as though I'm observing somebody else drawing and painting. Which is a weird thing. You know, the observation thing. Quite like it though. I quite like the connected disconnection. You know, the some part of me is connected to it, but it's not necessarily the cognitive, rational that's doing it. It's something else. I like that. I think also the learning thing is it can be sometimes a restrictive thing, you know, because it doesn't sometimes it doesn't allow for, and people might say that, you know, you apply the skills kind of thing, you learn the skills, apply the skills thing, but I'm not sure that's how it works. This before, it's like you learn to do things in a certain way, and you'll always be looking, you know yourself, you'll always look for subjects that meet a particular criteria, because that's not just the thing that most people choose, you know, subject wise or whatever. It's also something that you've learned how to do, so you'll do that. And that for me is the, you know, the beginning of I suppose style, you know, and the reason for style, because it becomes a repetitive, easily repetitive thing. I think for me, I would want something that's not easily repetitive. I want something that's going to be feel like it can't happen again. I mean, that I suppose is the, you know, the when I look at, say, that drawing yesterday with the woman, I look at things like that and think I could never do it again. I can never do that better than what I've done it there. I could never achieve that kind of response again. And that's exactly what I want. I don't really want to feel like, oh, I could do that again dead easy. I could do that, you know, exactly the same all the time, 10 times, you know. I don't want that. I don't want it to be a repeatable thing. I want it to remain in the realms of magic. But and that the downside to that, and anybody's learning to do this, the downside to it is that it's always uncertain. But I would, you know, in terms of where it'll work and all the outcome, and the hardest thing, I talked about the hardest thing of not, you know, drawing outlines first and colouring in, which is part and parcel of the same thing. But the hardest thing has got to be the removal of expectations of guaranteed outcomes and all that kind of thing. That's got to be one of those hard things to do, because it's where the fear comes from, where the mental block comes from, and all that, the artist block. It comes from that fear of failure. But you kind of want that. You want. And I have a lot of misfires. In fact, I've just cleared out a load, and I've got a bag at the side of my computer that's full of misfires. And I was thinking about, I'm going to burn them, but I was thinking about, you know, their relevance to what I do, because they're really important. They're not things I want to show anybody, but they're the things that define this. You know, they're the things that were part and parcel of this evolution, and that's weird. That I feel that the mistakes. I mean, I talk about mistakes on here on the actual drawing itself. You know, the things that are marks that aren't quite right and tones that aren't quite right, or things that appear on the face. I mean, I talk about that all the time, but there's also the things that happen, the misfires that happen before any of the drawing, and don't make it to be completed drawings. Most misfires though is it. People might say that you're not looking hard enough, and that in a way is true, but it's not. The observation is not visual observation. It's the emotional observation. You're not connecting properly. You're not observing emotionally hard enough. That's the reason for my misfires, is because of that. Because I'm failing to connect properly with the subject, and the subject for me, that's when I can get away with the nose not being quite right and all that. I live with all that stuff. I'm not really bothered about that. It's when if the result of my disconnection results in something that fails to capture the essence of somebody, and sometimes it can just become a production process. If that happens, then it's a fail. And sometimes the misfires can look like finished jobs, but because they became a production as opposed to being a response, then they fail. That's it for me. It has to be like that. Otherwise, it's just production. I'm not. I mean, this is back to the learning thing. I'm not the kind of person that's going to tell you to draw circles, squares, and triangles, and do it 50 times this way and that way and t'other way, and then that's not for me. It's just not the way that works for me. It might be that it results in your ability to draw portraits develops. It might be that that's the case, but it's not really for me. That's for other people to teach. That I think if that's the kind of teaching you want. See, as I'm doing it with this one, it's a mixture of the technical execution thing and the response to it. That's the thing. So capturing the essence of somebody is nearly always, for me, done via this emotive connection thing. You sort of feel the subject. It's always that. I always feel that I feel the subject for it to work properly. So I suppose, I never had anybody that would advise. I've said before this thing about people advise me or teach me. I never had that kind of thing. Or somebody saying that, I don't bother with that, do this. I mean, I did have people in the studios that I worked in that were experienced, in the craft elements of it. So people would teach me how to fix brushes and choose brushes and all that kind of stuff. But it was just commercial. It wasn't like a painter would choose a brush. It was for commercial execution, and purely practical. But think it's a difficult thing. Unless I do it like this and I talk about what I do and why I do it, I'm not sure you could actually turn it into some kind of taught thing, a process of teaching. It wouldn't suit the academic kind of route, because in my world, everything's a success, and that's not good for accountability. Outcomes have to be, assessed against something. Maybe the way that people capture form, or I don't know, just I don't know how they do it. I mean, I've seen people judging work to go in galleries, and it's purely a visual assessment, and probably to do with likes and dislikes and all that kind of. I've seen all that, and I would imagine it's the same thing when it comes to student work, but that's probably what I do. I do the same thing. I like it or I don't like it. Is usually the simplest form for me. It's a difficult one. I think if I talk about these on the courses about the process of doing it, but the number one thing, and whether or not it gets across on the courses or whatever, is this mindset, having the right mindset. It can't, you just can't do this if you have the wrong mindset. And if your mindset is a productive mindset, then you're going to be locked into production and all that entails. And if it's a mindset of a particular kind of outcome, expectation of a particular outcome, then you set your parameters for the level of commitment to education and the difficulty of that, and so on and so forth, and it just makes the whole thing harder for me anyway. I mean, I'm probably not as attuned with the traditional approach thing. So I'm going to be obviously a little bit off, and I mean, the main thing is that I'm not sure that what I do is for everybody. I don't think it would suit people. To a lot of people, it's just, it has to be a mechanical exercise. It has to be a process to a lot of people. And newcomers as well as existing people. So that in a way that then eliminates my what I do. It's not. Somebody said to me the other day that they'd read what's his face, the Loomis book, and then he wanted to do wanted to follow my book. So I was talking about doing a book. I'm in two minds, because it's not going to be much of a benefit to me. I'm not going to do it because it's going to take like loads of time and things. So I probably won't do it. But if you do something like Loomis and then come to what I do, it's going to break all the rules. It's going to go completely opposite direction. It's not good. I would say stick to Loomis and all the other mechanical ways of doing this. I don't think it'd be worth the upheaval, because the thought upheaval, because there's a particular acceptance of doing things with the Loomis way, and it's not. I wouldn't say it's conducive to what I do. So, but as I said, the teaching thing is I'm not trying to teach anybody. I'm just trying to share my experience of doing this, and then if it helps, then it helps. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So I'm just looking at the shapes of things at the moment. It's a bit like that one yesterday. That one I said I couldn't do again. It's a bit like that one in the way that all the shapes are working with each other. But so I'm trying to decipher, if you like, and connect and find a way to make them relate to each other. At the same time as the the vibe thing, the feeling thing. It's one of those images that's got the context thing going on, so it's going to have a background on it, so I'm going to use that to help me to properly shape the head and the components and things. So be it the the extremities thing. The charcoal's a little bit soft. Well, it's a lot soft. So there's no chance of a point on it. So I'm looking at larger shapes, or the larger areas of tone as a way of drawing it. I'm not worried too much about the precision of it just yet. I might come back and try to make it a little bit more precise and things, but the other thing about the the charcoal and this paper, I don't think it's going to be able to cope with the removal stuff. When I try and use a rubber to take things out, I don't think it's going to cope with that. So at the moment, I'm not going to even think about it. When I was doing the Ewan McGregor thing last night, there's just on that paper there was just no way of taking it off. There was just no way of shaping it or putting any highlights in or anything. It was just not having it. It's frustrating. But one of the things that I do know about that sometimes white is not what you're looking for. It's sort of, sometimes it's actually a good thing that it's not quite white. It's not quite as garishly different like this bit I'm doing now. That's great. You see how many people draw grey eyes? The eye bit is just grey, very light grey or blue sometimes. Yeah, so it's becoming, and as I said on that Ewan McGregor thing, it became more of a painting than anything. I know I was doing it 100 miles an hour, but it did become, I could feel it, like it was drifting towards a more painterly thing, which is fine. It's not, as opposed to that one yesterday, which was definitely more of a drawn feeling about it. I do that every now and again. You just see me trying to find the alignments of things. So that was what I was doing then. So I'm not. I'm just trying to find the, this kind of horizontal alignment stuff. Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably put some manic tone on it again. I'm just trying to get the, that sort of shape there, because that kind of pushes it up. That's what you can see how the defiance, whatever it is that she's conveying, so, is in the thrust of that head shape. And the jawline's quite square. Kill these lips a bit. They're just pushing my comparisons a little bit. The jawline, if it's there, and it sort of comes quite straight there. I'm talking about distance there. Always I struggle with that distance. That one there that's between the lips and the chin. I always seem to get it a little bit too big. I think the lips are quite a critical. The angle of the lips is quite a critical thing in this this pose. If it's the pose that it's quite a controlling factor in the whatever it is that she's looking daggers at me or whatever it is. I think that the lips is a big part of that. Just the the angle of it all. I think also the one of the things about this yesterday's, and I suppose this one as well, is this. It might be this batch of charcoal, but it's getting a very tonally, because I think that's what I was talking about yesterday, was the tones thing. So it's getting very much a tonal suggestive thing. Again, that's my sort of favorite way of treating things, is to suggest and imply rather than to draw. If it implies and suggests with accuracy, because that's the thing. Somebody said the other day, and I commented about and they said that just leaving things out is not isn't effective. It doesn't help the but I don't think they understood about suggestion and implication. If you just look at any of Sargent's portraits, it's laden with suggestion and implications all over it, and he used it really effectively. I mean, it's back to the accuracy, efficiency, and economy thing. So if you understand to accurately apply the shapes and then do that efficiently, and then the economy is to leave out what you don't need. This following the hierarchy of things, then you're more or less, you're capturing that. You actually are using the implication suggestion approach to doing this. And as I said, the best thing about that is that we do it when we're drawing. We're kind of not kidding ourselves or anything, but we're actually using the the things that we know about something, like the nose or the eyes or whatever, and we're using that to guide what we do, which is a bad thing. But that's the thing that you're going to plug into with an audience. They're going to plug into their ability to know what a nose looks like or an eye looks like, and they will then complete the picture using that knowledge. But you don't want that. You want to imply that that thing exists in that place, and they will then complete the picture. But this is what we were saying the other day about this guy that picked up on that, and I said, well, you've got to do it with accuracy. That's the thing. If the trajectory of the side of the face isn't properly implied, then it will not be completed in the right way. That's putting it simply. But if it was just the side of the face, for instance, so you've got to make sure that you imply with accuracy and suggest with accuracy, rather than it being I'm just going to leave that a bit out because it looks really quite creative. You know, you see a lot of that. People just leaving things out because it's a arty thing. But I just like and I think it's a consequence of this. And I was saying yesterday about that, drawing that other woman's face. I think it's a consequence of the pattern thing for me, because it is like a bunch of shapes and tones, and I just like that bit. I like that, you know, to imply and suggest the mouth, for instance, with a number of shapes and tones, rather than it being, oh, there's an outline around there and it's not quite right. You know, I quite like that. I like that, and it's wrong. There's got a lot of wrongness about it, and again, that's something else I'm looking for. Let me just sharpen this. I've still got to get the face a little better. And it's probably there's not much, just tones, a bit more, you know, there's lots of wrongness and shapes and things in there, and that's mint. I like all of that. Not quite properly, there's no outline around things somewhere. I've got to sort out the tones. You see, that's undulated in there, for instance, and then across there, just to make that balance. Then the shape of the head a little better. But it might be better once the hair is properly defined, because that's one of the things, as I said before, you make comparisons with all the other elements of the face, and those other elements, the comparison to those other elements can be the thing that determines whether something else on the face is right, is correct, you know. So it could be that. It could just be the fact that the hair is not quite right. So, but everything affects everything. So when I start to rectify that, I'll see whether or not this is the reason for these things being feeling a little bit off. Let me just get my. I'm just going to check the distances here. For instance, that one's a little bit wider than it needs to be, I think. But I think I'll get away with that. Not going to draw too much of the hair just yet. The ear just yet. I'm just going to get this hair on here. So I've got some kind of edge to it. Yeah. So this is the problem. This is the problem down here at the moment, which is always the, you see it changes now. It's always the danger with highlights. I mean, there are times when you want it to be a little bit contrasting, for it to suddenly be very white on one side of the face or whatever, and it it can be it can look right, but there are times when the danger of the the highlight thing, it really pulls you towards it, and it can particularly when this is kind of an atmospheric thing. I think part of the feeling, the vibe of this face is the atmospheric thing. It just feel a particular way, and that I was thinking about this choosing subjects thing and feeling, capturing feelings, not just emotions, but the feeling in relation to its context, the situation, or the story behind it. I quite like that. Exploring that might be something worth looking. I mean, I always have problems with finding references, so I can only use what I can find. So I'm not too. I don't get set out with a criteria of what I need in from the images. I mean, short of hiring somebody and setting it up and all that kind of thing, well, I haven't got the resources for that. So it's a bit of a compromise, really. I think that's probably what I'm saying. I have to, can only use what I can find, but it'd be nice to find, and more often than not now on Instagram, they tend to be, on Pinterest rather, they tend to be more like this. This is a Pinterest one. And there is a bit of a story with it. So, which, yeah, I know it's it's more of a illustrative thing, but I'm trying to keep away from that. So it's in production terms, I don't want it to be illustrative, but in terms of the creative response, I want it to be illustrate the mood or the atmosphere of it. And sometimes it's nothing more than just treatment. I saw somebody doing landscapes this morning in the sketchbook, and they were just allowing the paint, it was watercolor, allowing the paint to bleed and to just create these archetypal landscapes, which is usual sort of thing, horizon line, trees in the fog, on the horizon line, and the sun and all that, just to as I say, the cliches. But sometimes atmosphere is like that. It can be just simply a case of letting the medium do its thing. Charcoal is one of those mediums. You can just let charcoal do its thing and create atmosphere with charcoal. People do it, you know, you're sort of really heavily smudged and just blended and distressed in some ways. There's one person that I'm connected with who just distresses, creates great drawings and then distresses the drawing. Which gives it atmosphere, you know, and charcoal's great at that. It's if for doing that kind of thing, charcoal's great at that. More control. People do it more control, and really skilled at making it, you know, adapting the tonal possibilities with it to make it look more photographic. Those are people that spend an awful lot of time doing that, rather than just allowing the charcoal to do its thing, or the watercolor to do its thing, which is sometimes is better results. You know, it's I'm trying to break down the edges in a way, you know, the edges of the face there, because of this. You can see what's happening with it. You can see it's breaking down because of this belonging thing. You know, the thing I bang on about sometimes about the wanting the face to look like it belongs on the, you know, where it is. Just the background's not. It's not just stuck on the background, because sometimes I feel that's what happens, and I end up with them just looking like they're just cut out and stuck on. But breaking down edges, breaking down the sides of things, you know, the way the tones meet and all the rest of it, it kind of helps, you know, because everything's infected by everything, you know, the surroundings, and allowing those things to, or making those things amalgamate in a way, is it just in a narrative kind of illustration like this, or portrait like this, you want that to, you know, it's not just a face. It's like I was saying with the woman yesterday, it's not just a face. Everything else was what made the face, you know, your response to the face. So yeah, so one of the things about this, it's this charcoal again, but one of the things about this charcoal is that it has that feeling of because of the, you know, the way that I'm smudging it and pushing it around and things, it's got a kind of oldie worldy type illustration feel about it, and some of that is very what you'd see in a, you know, an old newspaper or magazine or something like that. It's got that feeling about it. It's more than just drawing. You can see there's not, it's the drawing element of it is not a if you wanted to call it a drawing, it's you struggle, because it's not really there's too much of it. Is painterly. So those illustrations from those old newspapers and things, which were pen and wash more, pen and ink wash more than often than not, it's got that kind of feel about it. Yeah. Yeah. I just looked at it and I thought, yeah, that's working. That's working. No, so as far as the learning's concerned, I've got just I'll tell you what I'm doing, and I'll tell you why I do what I do, but don't take this as some kind of some kind of you must do it this way or else, because there's enough of that on it. And I think at the bottom line, I'd tell you would be do it your way first over anything else. You've got to find if some of these things that I do help you, fine, but I bet you could teach me some things. I bet half the time if people really gave into their creativity as opposed to thinking it has to be done in a certain way, I bet a lot of people would find they can do incredible things, and wouldn't it be great if they could share them as well? Yeah, I worry about the shape of the shirt and things in a minute. It's just getting these nice these sort of things working. And a lot of this is toned as well, though. By the way, it's just the tones that are not quite right in certain places. So it's on the way now. You can see it's on its way. I'm going to leave it at that because what we've done an hour. I don't like these things to go on for too long. I'm going to be on again later. So I've got a lesson tonight, so I'll be preparing for that as well. So you'll see I evolved. And the ear must be a little bit bigger, but it's about there. But yeah, I'll get back on and you'll see how it turned out. Right.